it's quiet, you do that clap, and they all pay attention. So I'd like to say welcome. Thanks for coming out this evening. We have a joint event tonight with the Howard County Republican Women and We the People Too. Beth and I have worked very hard together to put this event on tonight, and thank you for being here. I think we're all here tonight because we believe in faith, family, freedom, free enterprise, equal rights, the Constitution of the United States, and we respect the flag. Am I right? Yes. Okay. So with that, we're going to roll right into the Pledge of Allegiance. Jorge, would you like to come up and do the pledge, please, with a microphone?
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Oh, and we have the music on. Gordana. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, give me 1 second. I forgot the prayer, which some people in this room would stop me because it's God before country, and I'm very good at giving prayers. And would someone run down and tell the bare bones people that I don't need rock and roll to give a prayer? Thank you. Okay, so I want to say, dear Heavenly Father, please guide us, the leaders, guide us as citizens of the United States of America. Let us be strong. Let us find a way to right the ship because we all know things are a little not right. And give us fortitude, strength, courage, the decisiveness to do the right thing at the right time and be brave and go forward. Amen.
Amen.
Now the pledge.
And with pleasure, we'd like to introduce.
Jorge, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to say the Pledge of Allegiance in exactly 5 days before my 24th birthday. So, repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jorge. Good job. Excellent job. Okay, now here's how we're going to roll tonight. There might be an agenda paper on your table that looks like this. And our two clubs, since we're doing a joint event tonight, are going to sort of do a abbreviated business meeting real quick. Then we have the wonderful Donna Thews here from the Board of Elections, who in 15 minutes is going to certify anybody and everybody in the room to be a voter registration person good for 2 years. So that means you can join me when I have my giant register to vote here sign at all the many events we go to. Okay, so I'm going to do my little part, Beth's going to do her little part, and then we're going to move forward with our speakers after Donna. So that's how it's going to roll. I know, but we have to do our morning stuff. Okay, I'm going to start my business meeting, please, with our wonderful treasurer, Lisa Molden. Could you give us the report? Would you like a microphone? No? Okay.
Go ahead, stand up. You're loud. Oh, I have to. Okay. I'll make this short and sweet. So we have quite a few new members. People are signing up through PayPal. It's working great. And as of right now, today we have $2,148.38 in our account.
Yay!
We have 19 total members for 2022.
New members.
New members.
Additional members.
Right.
Cheers to
Yes,
that.
cheers to
That's
that.
awesome.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, that was great. We don't have a recording secretary here tonight. A lot of people are out of town on business, or a corresponding secretary. Deborah Warner's here with us. Deborah, give a little wave in the back of the room. She's my wonderful VP, and I love her. Okay. Membership is open for our club for 2022. There's some business cards up here in the front, and you can join, and men, you guys can join too. We give you a little discount. Yes, yes you can. And it's easy. On the website, PayPal, push a button, you're done. It's like 30 seconds, maybe 60 if you have to dig out a credit card. Okay, so please consider that. All right. the next report we have is Miss Loretta Shields. She is going to tell us about the Maryland Federation of Republican Women, what we have going on. The Howard County Republican Women are underneath an umbrella of the Maryland Federation of Republican Women, which is under a national umbrella of Republican women. So there are thousands of us. And we're a very powerful lobbying group, and we're happy for that. We get a lot done. So Loretta, thank you.
Thank you very much. I probably don't need the microphone, but that's okay. So if you remember, those of you that were at the meeting last month, we updated everybody on heading to Florida, and we had a fabulous time in Orlando. Hello, how are you? A great time in Orlando at the NFRW convention, and if you see my shirt and my scarf, this is what everybody in the Maryland Federation of Women in our group wore. That we have 32 ladies came down from Maryland, so we had one of the larger groups by state when you think about it. And I mean, we have 1,800 members in the state, and I am currently the first vice president of the MFRW, and my term will end in January. Trust me, 2 years is enough. But anyway, I was going to just give you a little bit of an update. We had fabulous speakers. You name the people that came to visit with us. Ron DeSantis, you know, governor of Florida. We had Kristi Noem came down. We had Rick Scott. Rick Scott showed up and bought a rose for every lady in the room. And he explained to us, we had 1,000 women attending. He explained to us that his mother trained him. You don't go any place where there's ladies that you don't bring them a flower. So it was fabulous. Rick Scott, the senator from Florida, if some of you know Kat Kamek, I'll tell you, you need to, Kat Kamek is a congresswoman, first-term congresswoman in Florida. You need to read her story, ladies, and understand what happened with her and everything she's been through. I mean, it just was phenomenal. We also had a speaker that brought us a book. And this book is called Victoria's Voice. Victoria is her daughter who died from an overdose. But as she was going through all the trials and tribulations, trying to get out of the drug environment that she was in and break the habit, she kept a diary. And when she died, her mom and dad turned it into a book. And if you look in here, it's actually the diary pages. And it is fabulous because it's there to try and help others. How do you reach out? How do you go through? So again, it's called Victoria's Voice. If you know any families that are going through issues with substance abuse, this is a fabulous book to share with them. Other than that, like I said, the shirt for the ladies that are members of the Howard County Republican Women, this shirt and our scarf are for sale again. Scarves have been out, they're back, and the shirts, if you're interested, the MFRW is buying them again, and Lisa will share more information. So, Lisa, thank you very much.
Loretta, thank you. Loretta is a godsend to the Republican Party of Howard County. She works for a long, long time and been instrumental, and she's the person I go to when I need to know some detail that I can't seem to figure out. Okay, next we have one more item of business for the Republican Women's Club, and that is we have our officer elections next time around, and we have a nomination committee chaired by a wonderful member, Christine O'Loughlin, and she's going to come up and read who is nominated. And next meeting we go into our election cycle of 2 years. Thank you, Christine.
I chair the nominating committee with two other members of the club. It was Loretta and Yungmann, Boss, and myself. The slated candidates for the 2022-2023 term, which starts in January of 2022, is President Lisa Tavelli Feinberg, First Vice President Deborah Warner, Second Vice President, we don't have anyone yet in that slot. Corresponding Secretary is Jenny Zhang, Recording Secretary Lisa Molden, Treasurer Lynn Stevens, and Assistant Treasurer Angie Hammond. This slate is presented tonight. The election will be, or the appointment will be in November at our annual meeting, November 16. Is that correct? And they'll be sworn in at that meeting to start their term in January. Thank you. Yes. I'll give this to you.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you. Okay. And one more shameless plug for my group. Okay, because you're all excited about coming out to the next meeting, next time. We have next month, the Howard County Republican Women, the 2022 officer election, which is not exciting to anybody in this room unless you're getting elected as an officer. But what's exciting that we have coming is Speaker Lisa Kim. And it's our speaker's titled Diversity Yes, Illegal No. How illegal immigration affects you. Thank you, Gordana. Yeah, because Gordana knows, is an expert on this too. Okay, so that's my little flyer up here. And now we're going to segue into We the People too. Ms. Beth Lawson, President, thank you for being here. Yay.
Thank you for collaborating. I won't bore everybody with drivel, but our mission is to educate on the Constitution, identify issues which we have a plethora of, prioritize, and actually address them and move forward with a solid plan. Anyway, our next meeting is in competition with Lisa. Sorry. The 16th, and don't have an agenda yet other than elections. I would love to have a secretary, please, please, please. And we are having another event on November 9th to address the inappropriate graphic materials that are in the schools. So, ta-da! We'll send out emails, and with further ado, I turn this over to...
Is your We the People the same one as the book that's used in the 5th grade of all of our elementary schools? Yeah. Sounded okay.
I'm sorry?
Different We the People, but I will get a book and show it to you.
Oh, please do. And Ray, if you would please take a few minutes to go over the very important councilmatic redistricting. Jack? Very important.
Hi.
Don't be brief, I promise.
Great.
Ta-da.
Hi. You're probably wondering why there's a bunch of maps around you. Every 10 years, obviously, the census comes in, and we have to redraw the maps for the county council districts. Now, there's a redistricting commission that is happening at the statewide level. This is not it. We're talking like that's the Democrats have their own little commission, and the Republicans, or I guess people, really, the Republicans, Democrats, and Independents have another one. At the county level, we have a commission of 4 Democrats, 3 Republicans. Yours truly is on this commission, and so we've been starting because our good friend Joe Biden did not release the data until August for the census. We had to start much later than usual. We fought like hell to try to get the maximum amount of time to get for public input. The Democrats only wanted like 3 days. We wanted 2 weeks. We've already passed 1 week, so now we have another week left. Actually, we have another week until the hearing, and then on the 29th of October, then that's where you have written testimonies. That's when the deadline for written testimony. Surprisingly, there's a lot, because the areas I grew the most is along the Route 1 corridor. District 2 and District 3, which are predominantly more Democratic-leaning areas, those are the areas that they grew. So the idea was to shift populations from 2, either go work counterclockwise or work clockwise. I tell you, the Democrats wanted to work clockwise. Is that right? Yeah. They wanted to work clockwise. They wanted to shift parts of 1, which is more Republican, into 2, and then shift 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and so forth. What we were trying to do is to do kind of counterclockwise. The real point of contention right now is this area right here along between Route 100 and 103, or Montgomery Road, called Wheatfield. It used to be in 1, now it's in 2. We're trying to redraw it and put it in 2. This is our map right here. So it looks like it's already in one, it's not actually in one. And then Dorsey's Search, which is one of the 10 villages of Columbia. There's two parts of that, there's Fairway Hills and Dorsey Hall, and to move that from District 1 to District 4. So if you know anybody who lives in these areas and is willing to testify.
What can we do to help other people? What do you want people to testify to?
So what we want, if you know anybody who lives in these areas who's willing to testify, please have them contact me. We will try to get, we're trying to basically tell them what our plan is. Basically get one into District, to get Wheatfield back into District 1 and to get Dorsey Search from District 1 into District 4. If we do this correctly, we could potentially have 2 seats on the county council. Right now we have 1. 2 seats, if we get the county executive, that guy, that's our 1 vote right there. Hopefully we can get 2, those 2 guys right there. And if we get 2 seats and county executives, we basically, we have a veto-proof, we don't have a veto-proof majority on the county council, and we have a Republican county executive. If we don't, they probably, I think what they're trying to do, they really, it's going to be a hard time to try to shift 5 to make it more democratic, but that's what they're trying to chip away at. But the idea is to try to make this Montgomery County Part 2, basically make it eradicate Republicans from the county. So again, we're trying to push back smartly. I can tell you offline how smart why we chose certain areas, but we are, there's a reason for it, and again, we need all hands on deck. It's next Tuesday's a hearing, it's at 7 p.m. It's at the Banneker Room, or you can do it online, it's on Zoom too. So if you want to testify, I don't think you even have to live in the area, you can just testify and say, this is what I think.
And can you guide whoever's willing to testify as to what to say?
I technically can't really do that, but we can
But you may
direct
have,
you to somebody who can.
you may have a friend that would like to do that.
I can tell you that the maps out of the Republican ones that were designed by Republicans are districts, or if you see online, you probably see on Scott E. blog, it's map C and map D. The one that we're really pushing for is map D. Map D basically puts Wheatfield back into District 1 and it puts all of Dorsey Search into District 4. And then so you'll make 1 more Republican, 4 more Republican, 5 stays Republican, if not even more Republican, and 2 or 3 stays the same.
And Ray said this Tuesday, you need people to.
On the 26th, October 26th.
No, next week.
A week from today.
Rather, yeah, we
Yeah, a week from today, yeah. So, yeah, Banneker Room, I should be there in person, so I'll have a friend there. Yeah.
And if you know people in these areas, a lot of us don't live in these areas, but if you know people in these areas, then you can connect with Ray also to get out to testify. They will, the Dems will have those people lined up.
Yeah.
And, you know, even though we're outnumbered on this board, on this commission, you know, we can force them to do things that make sense, and if not, we can take it out of them. You know, we can use it against them in the next election.
And we've won a lot of fights along the way. They wanted to have all virtual meetings. We fought them to have in-person meetings. They wanted to have 3 days of public comment. We fought them to have, we made them have 2 weeks of public comment. They wanted to have no public written comment. We fought them to have it, not only written comments, but also written comments to the very, very last day before we meet. So we've been winning on the chipping away on certain things. This is a big fight right now, these maps. And we even fought them on that. We even said, even if we don't agree on one map, can we agree on certain pieces of the map that we could basically say, well, we'll give you this if you give us this. And that's what we go for. So, again, really hope.
Thank you, Ray. And I think we all owe Ray a round of applause because Ray is the Republican Central Committee Choice of the Year for his work. He does incredible things that most of you in this room don't know about, but a few of us do, and it's just amazing. So thank you. Okay.
Did you want to do the business part of the meeting? I'm sorry.
I don't want to.
Okay, and next on our wonderful agenda is Miss Donna Thews. She's a member of the Howard County Board of Elections. She's going to do her express training. If you'd like to, at the end of this meeting, you will be certified in the state of Maryland, correct me if I'm wrong, to be a voter registration person. So you can sit somewhere at a table and register, or in my case, I want to re-register voters from that party to this party, okay? So Donna, come on up and tell us what you got for us. Thank you for coming out tonight. Bless you.
Elisa, you're going to do some work for me since it's only 15 minutes. All right. So, yes, I am the president of the Howard County Board of Elections, but I can train anybody from anybody as long as they are a registered voter in the state of Maryland. So if you are, and if you're interested in this training, make sure you raise your hand, and Lisa's going to hand out a matter of two things to you, and then one thing is going to go around the room that has to be signed. All of these have to be filled out, but I'm going to tell you how to fill out the one form, because everybody does it wrong. So, well, because the way it's written, it's very poorly written. State does that.
So they get that.
This is the form that we're going to walk through real quick, and you get this, and they all need to sign on there. Okay. So we're going to do this very fast, but I am going to make a couple of quick announcements. If you are running for a state office, you go to the State Board of Elections, and you'll most likely have to make an appointment. If you go to Howard County, or any county if you're from another county, if you're running for a county seat, then you would go to that county. And I guarantee in Howard County you have to make an appointment. So you make an appointment, there's paperwork online, fill it out before you go, because it's a waste of time to go if you don't fill it out. But that's an announcement for all those that may be considered running. My second announcement is judges are always needed. Howard County generally does pretty well with judges, but I was just in a meeting with the presidents of boards of elections throughout the state, and Baltimore City, which struggles through every election, never has enough Republicans. So not only am I asking for me, but I'm definitely asking for Baltimore City. The board is trying very hard to get people coming from out of the city up there for election day and primary day, because they need Republican help. And poll watching, you're not going to be able to do anything but watch. Working there as a judge, you'll see what's really going on. So if you want to know what goes on with election, if you want to get trained in what we actually do, if you want to see the behind the scenes, then you want to be a judge. So I encourage you to support candidates, but on election day and primary election day, I encourage you to work for us. You do get paid. You get paid for training as well. So with that, those are my two plugs. And you can register online for judges. So now that I said that, this form is always difficult because the way it's written is at the very bottom I sign it. So people always think, oh, Donna's doing this. You're not putting my name, you're putting yours. So it starts out with Howard County Board of Elections is doing the training. It does not matter what county you're from, you still put in Howard County, because I'm from Howard County and I'm the person training it. Then the next blank, you would put in your name, because I am swearing and affirming that I am training all of you, not that you would be. So then you're going to put your name and address and telephone number and signature, you're the volunteer. And today's date is 10/19/21. I am the VRV trainer, and I will be signing this after tonight or tomorrow morning. So, and then turning these all into the board. This then goes to the State Board of Elections, and you're in here. Why do people get trained? Well, one, because we have a lot of people who are doing it wrong, and two, we're doing it because there's a lot of people who will challenge you, especially Republicans. And so this way you can prove that you have in fact been trained. As a voter registration representative, technically you're representing us, and you have to be impartial. Now you can have a sign that says, I'm here representing this candidate or this party, but you have to be impartial as they're filling it out. You cannot tell anyone how to register to vote. Even if you technically can't tell your kids. Luckily my kids all knew what to register and they all became diehard Republicans, but you cannot tell, and we've had parents change their registration of their child in front of us, and we've just simply taken it and then called the child the next day, who was actually an adult because they're 18, and after doing that, we've said, we can't seem to read your registration. What would you actually like to be registered as? and we've taken care of it for them. So that said, I'm going to go and switch now to the actual registration forms. The form that most people use nowadays is the one that's online because it's easy to download. If you have the old forms, it doesn't matter. Every form that we have ever printed, if we have a form from 1950, we will still accept it. There may be some things that have changed on it, but we still will accept it because once a form is approved, it is approved for life. So, but the easiest way is download them off of our website. You can go in if you're having a voter registration drive and get them. I will tell you with the motor voter, the odds are incredibly small of getting a new voter because they would have registered when they did their license. But you may find that you're in a situation where somebody just turned 18 and hasn't had a chance to fill out a form. You may find that somebody wants to change parties, as Lisa was referring to, and that's important that you're right there and then right there you can get them a form and help them change parties so that they can vote in the primary for the correct party. So that said, we're going to kind of go down the form that they have, and one of the first things on the form, the voter registration form, is they ask, are you at least 16 years old? That always confuses people. Democratic legislators insisted that we allow people to register as early as 16 even though they can't vote till they're 18. We put them in the system, they're flagged, they can't vote. Once they turn 18, we unflag them and they can vote. But that is, in fact, they can register as early as 16. The next question, are you a U.S. citizen? You want to make sure they check this off, because if they are not a citizen and they have checked that, they have created perjury, and in theory, and I say in theory because rarely have we ever caught anybody, but in theory, we could prosecute them for lying. So you want to make sure they fill that. Obviously, if they say no, we're not going to register them. Some of the questions on the form that people get confused by is they will ask something like a suffix. I get this question a lot. Women don't have them. Only men, and that is junior, senior, the third, that kind of thing. That's a suffix. So sometimes people get confused with that word. The other thing that confuses them is they will ask for a PO box, they will ask for a mailing address and their physical address. There are a lot of people, especially here in Howard County, that have PO box addresses because they don't really get mail where they live. So they get it at the post office. That's totally fine. We still need their physical address because that's how we assign them their precinct. Even though precincts are extremely passe, but we assign them to their precincts. So when people panic, when they see that this person has a PO box as their address, that's totally fine because we have it all the time in Howard County. They have it in many other counties, but specifically here, you can pick that you want it sent to your office. You can have it mailed anywhere you want. We just need your physical address as well. And both of them go on there. So then we require ID and then for them to put it on there. They can put their driver's license, which is what we really want them to put. And we say on the form it's mandatory. However, it's not mandatory because not everybody has a driver's license, even though since 2001 it's been mandatory that anybody over the age of 18 must have a government-issued ID. But if they will not give a number for their thing where they just don't have their driver's license, they can give the last four of their social security number. That's all we need. I can tell you right now, if anybody has your last four, they can tell your entire social security number. So, all we need is the last four. It takes longer for that person to be checked because we contact Social Security on every single one of those and we follow up with them, and it honestly takes somewhere between 1 or 2 months. So when people are registering right before elections and they're only giving a social security number, we're going to try and push Social Security fast, but we may not be able to count their vote because they may not have been confirmed as a registered voter. So if they do not have either one of those, they can just say that they don't have it and we will contact them. It is not your job to screen them. It is not your job to challenge them in any way, shape, or form. It is your job to make sure they fill out the form. And they are supposed to give us an email and or phone number for during the day. That's right, during the day when they're probably at work, we need to contact them because that's when our office is open. And we're going to ask them anything that we can't read or they did not fill out on the form. So don't challenge them if they put something down. If you get somebody who's doing a voter registration in Howard County, it's for Carroll County, that's okay, drop it off at our office and we'll send it up to Carroll. It's not a problem. So those things can all happen as well. But you fill it out, and like I said, we want them to give us as much information. The better the information, the quicker they will be registered. They are not considered registered until they get a form from us showing their voter registration card. If they don't get a voter registration card, they have to assume either that never got turned in, they're having problems and they can't reach them, or something, and they should call their local boards of elections. With that said, let's say you say, well, all I'm doing is changing my party. There's a part on the very bottom of the form where it says you can change things. Let's say you got divorced and you're going back to your maiden name. Let's say you got married and you're going to changing your name. Let's say you're changing parties. In some cases, let's say you're changing gender. They have all sorts of things that people change. So, once they do this, it goes on that bottom part, at the very bottom of it, it gives them the opportunity to do that. And once they do that, they send that in. And we will look them up and see that they're in the system and see that there's something they're changing, and we will correct it. They can also, like I said, they may be just changing their address, party affiliation, everything like that. They do check off the party. Every few years we have different parties. We do have things like the bread and roses, which I always want to call gummy roses, but bread and roses. You can tell what kind of music I might have listened to. But they, bread and roses. We have all different green parties back again for a short time. And so we do have parties that rotate. And one of the other things that get a lot of people confused, and after this I'm going to take questions, is there is no, and there never has been, when somebody wants to be not associated with a party, they are not independent. There was an independent party here for a while that took advantage of that. But if you don't want to be part of a party, you are unaffiliated, not independent. And that unaffiliated can only vote in some counties for Board of Elections. And if you want to do more than that, then you need to pick a card. So with that, is there any questions for this incredibly quick training?
Thank you.
Yes, Ronald.
What's the latest time when you can change the parties before election?
Well, you can change your party, and I don't actually have the right date in front of me because I didn't bring my dates with me, and because I'm trying to zip through these things, so I skipped a few things. But if you have till next year. I know it's sometime in February, but I would encourage people to do it now. One of the other reasons why I'm not real tight on these numbers is going back to doing the redistricting. If they cannot get this consensus going in time, the primary is going to be pushed back, and that means all our deadlines get pushed back. So right now, it is honestly a 50-50 chance on that. And so that is why I'm not firm in my dates. However, you can go on our website, our state board website, and the Howard County takes you to that link, and it will give you the dates that you need to have. Yes?
Gonna back to the independents. They can vote in the general election, it's just not the primary, correct?
Right. And in the general election, anybody votes, it's the same ballot based on your precinct and stuff like that, but it is not, anybody can vote anything. It's the primary is always the question. We always get people who are unaffiliated, not independent, unaffiliated, that come in and get very mad because they wanted to vote for a candidate and they don't understand the process. The primary is designed for parties to pick their representatives. That's the only reason why we hold a primary. It has nothing to do with anything else, which is why they're closed in the state of Maryland. Any other questions?
The voting machine. I have a question about the voting machine. Is it possible to get a receipt and to have a confirmation that if you voted for candidate A, that is the candidate you cast a ballot for, and that is the receipt you get as proof that, God forbid, we have to challenge somebody or someone to have a proof for that? Is there a way to get that receipt?
You do, in the machines that were selected now, you have your ballot, it just scans it. We have a copy of it, we have the actual ballot itself in the container. So if we have a recount, we use the actual ballots.
But
But you as a person, we do have a piece that comes off that says, yes, here's you voted, and here's the number of the ballot you voted.
But it doesn't tell me, there's no carbon copy, there's no receipt.
That would be, if you got rid of paper ballots, then we could give you that. Because we can't scan it and say, here's your copy of this, because we would literally have to be scanning a printer to get it printed out.
Like if you scan it and the little slip comes in, like you go to a grocery store and it says, here's your slip, like this is the candidate for this, for this, for this, for this. It doesn't have to be the identical, it's just a copy to
Right, but
prove.
our scanners don't have a printer. So in order for it to print, we would have to have a whole different system. The only ones right now that are offered that are ones that do not have a paper ballot. Right now, throughout this country, you cannot get one unless you give up your paper ballot, which we chose to have a paper ballot. And when I say we, I mean our legislators. And I preferred it, I was supported that, but yes.
June 7th is the cutoff date for changing party.
There you go. Thank you.
Before the primary.
Thank you. All right, yeah, she looked at my calendar. So, there you go. All right, thank you. Make sure I get this form. And there should be at least one thing that's going around the room that is, you have this. Yeah, there was a sign-up sheet as well.
Still going.
So I need both of those back to me. It's okay if you're still working on them. I'm sitting over there. Just make sure I get them. And when I get them, I will be giving you a card that says, yes, you have registered. All right, there you go.
Thank you so much, Dawn. And thank you for everybody who's participating in this. You're a true patriot. Next up, we have the first of our wonderful speakers tonight, and that is Sean McCurdy. Sean is an everyday Howard Countyan, family man, hardworking person who, like many of us in this room, just got sick and fed up of what was going on. And he said, I am not going to take it any longer. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to run for county council and county council District 1. Sean, come on up. Thank you.
Man, so the mic is new this week, so. Yeah, so first of all, thank you to the Howard County Republican Women and We the People too. I appreciate you guys having me here. I'll be remiss if I don't shout out to Ray back there, the Howard County Young Republicans, fantastic. And thank you guys all for allowing me to talk for 5 minutes or so. So yeah, I'm Sean McCurdy. I'm running for Howard County Council, District 1. By trade, I'm an IT guy. I do IT projects for a national company. We do IT projects all across the United States for medium to large businesses. But lately my passion has been with local politics and being a community advocate, however I can do that, right? I grew up in Ellicott City. I've been in District 1 my whole life. So I went to Worthington Elementary School, Ellicott Mills Middle School, Centennial High School. So again, I've been here my whole life. My wife and I purchased our first home in Elkridge. We were there for about 10 years before moving back here to Ellicott City, probably about 2 or 3 years ago. So now we're in Worthington. So again, I've been in this district, again, my whole life. So I know it very well, and that's what I'm passionate about. I think the first thing that got me involved was the school shutdowns last year when I moved back to Worthington, and I tried to send my kid to school and I couldn't. That's when I get into politics, and it sort of evolved. So there's 3 main things I'm running on, and for those of you who don't know, District 1 covers roughly from Ellicott City to Elkridge. We know this is a, yeah. God, there's a map of it. We know this is a winnable district. We know Kittleman won it twice. We know Larry Hogan won it twice. We know Christina Delmont Small. For those of you who don't know her, she was Board of Ed. So, yeah, I'm a big fan myself. She's my district, obviously. So while she's technically not affiliated with any party yet, she was the Republican on the ticket, and she won easily in our district. So the 3 main points I guess I'm running on, first of all, would be to, I wouldn't say slow, but more planning when it comes to the development in Elkridge, right? So, as I said, I lived in Elkridge for 10 years. Over the last 15 years, Elkridge has come a long way. Some for good, some for bad. It seems like their development plan in Elkridge has been sort of ad hoc. They're throwing up a gas station over here, condos over here, and it doesn't seem like there's a clear vision. And I'd like to be part of that vision to see what Elkridge really could be. And also the preservation and conservation of Old Ellicott City. Old Ellicott City's really, in my opinion, changed over the last 10 years. I mean, I know there's some things we couldn't avoid with the flood and everything, but if you look down there now, it's a bunch of empty storefronts and empty parking lots, and there's not people down there like there used to be. There used to be foot traffic. We used to bring in people from all over the state to come to Old Ellicott City and shop and support local businesses. And when you go down there now, it feels sort of like a ghost town. There's not enough people down there getting things done, so that's going to be a main concern of mine. Secondly, safety, right? Everybody's concerned about safety, but anything that's going to, I'm going to oppose anything that would be detrimental to Howard County safety, like defunding the police, getting rid of SROs at our schools. I think student resource officers are a huge asset to our children, and I think removing them will just make them less safe, not more safe. So that'd be a huge focus of mine, is to keep SROs in schools. I have a lot of friends and family that are in the police, and they just get a terrible rap. So I'm very pro-police SRO. And lastly, I would just say, no new taxes, right, on our Howard County business. Before I got into the IT sector, I worked in the hospitality business for a long time, about 15 years. So I know a lot of these, right here on Route 40, I know a lot of business owners trying to run a small business. I know a lot of GMs. I know you guys come here often, I understand, and Derek's the GM here. I worked for Derek personally for 12 years. So I understand what these new taxes, just these tiny nickel and dime plastic bag tax, paper straw, just anything you can come up with to get another 5 cents out of the small business. We shouldn't be trying to tax our small businesses into the ground here in Howard County. We should be trying to help them thrive. So that's kind of like my 3 main goals here and the reasons I'm running. I really thank you guys for giving me a few minutes to introduce myself. Well, thank you, Beth. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know if I'm all of that, but I appreciate that. And I encourage you guys to reach out to me. I have a website, McCurdy4hoco.com. I'll throw some business cards on the table. You guys will grab them on the way out. It'll be awesome. Reach out to me. Please let me know what's affecting you and your communities. Maybe I can help, especially if you're in District 1. Bring the fight. But again, I'm just here to, keep our community safe and for fiscal responsibility in Howard County.
And whether or not you live in County Council District 1, you can help all the council districts because they work together to keep Howard County safe and the way we want to live in Howard County. So, help Sean. Okay. Next up, we have my personal county councilman, David Yungmann from County Council District 5. David is a long-time Howard County resident. He is a very effective legislator. He's a great diplomat, and he's a great all-around guy. So come on up, David.
Can I just talk from back here? Is this okay?
Sure. Anywhere you want to stand.
Oh, no, I gotta go there except for on the video.
You need to be a movie star.
Can you guys hear me though without this?
Yeah.
Get your whole thing going so you
Yep.
can pick
You can turn that off so it doesn't. Everybody vote for that guy. Because the incumbent that represents his district steals all the counter space up at that desk. That's the one nice thing about virtual, is I don't have to share counter space. Lisa, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's some institutional clubs that have been around for a long time that are really part of the fabric of the Republican Party. Federation of Republican Women, the Central Committee, the Young Republicans, the county GOP clubs, and the folks that run these things. Thank you. You, Jen, Loretta, I know you're not, I don't think you're president of the Central Committee anymore, but you still pretty much run it. And anybody that was at that Weekend Dig dinner knows that you were running that thing. Thank you. And I don't think we've had a young Republicans club in Howard County for a long time, and you guys are like shot out of a cannon. I know that, and Ray's handed over the reins too, but he's here. So speaking of Lincoln Day dinner, I haven't been in a room of Republicans with that much energy in many years.
It was
fantastic, and probably second only to a Trump rally. The most energy amongst a bunch of Republicans in a long time. And that and the tailwinds that we feel coming for 2022 were pretty good. Folks, we need candidates. We need candidates. And I know, and look, it's Howard County, you're looking at this map, some of these races are tough. We still gotta run strong people. We can't let a year that doesn't come very often, maybe 1 out of every 4 or 5 cycles without headwinds, go to waste. We have to put strong candidates up that know people, that known in their community, they can raise money, they can knock on doors, they can sign wave, and you know, we've got to have these people running. Not only can they win these races, but you gotta force the incumbents, you gotta force the other party in power to spend money. You know, I mean, just something simple, it's not simple, something huge, but not only can Alan Kittleman beat Calvin Ball, Calvin Ball needs to now spend his $1 million on his own race instead of giving it to everybody else. We need to be thinking about that all the way through. You know, and gosh, I didn't name it, but so the way our Board of Ed runs, for anybody who doesn't know, we just switched to a system where 5 of the Board of Ed, 5 of the 7 run in the same, in the presidential year in our districts, these districts. But then 2 in the state election year, which is coming up, these are the at-large seats. And one of those incumbents is not running again. And she's kind of one of the middle of the road people that is on our side a lot. That seat is ripe for the taking by some of the truly radical people in this county, which could throw our Board of Ed into kind of a 5-2, you know, a 5-2 sort of radical left group. Got to have somebody strong running for that seat, and a lot of people in this room supporting them. Let's see, I wrote down some notes. Oh, and since most of you aren't going to be candidates, you know, logically, everybody's got to be all hands on deck. I mean, I've seen us not take advantage of opportunities in a year that we've had opportunity, snatch defeat out of the hands of victory by bickering with each other. It's time to all get on the same page and, you know, run good races, get good candidates through these primaries. Whoever gets through, everybody's on deck to win in November. So, I didn't talk about myself at all. I'm the only incumbent Republican elected official right now at a county office. And, you know, guys, I've managed to be reasonably effective because, you know, I can kind of work with the other side. But I can tell you that even the folks on the county council that are willing to work with me sometimes are getting targeted by their party to be taken out in their primary because they want loyalty. They want party loyalty. They don't want independent thinkers. So lots at stake. Howard County is a great place to live. It's still a great place to live, but it's changed a lot. I knew that it would be a rough 4 years, and I knew we'd, you know, maybe slide backwards a little bit. I am shocked at how quickly this county's changed in 3 years. So it is time to stop the tidal wave, turn it back, and put us back down on the right road. So thank you guys.
Thank you, David.
A personal shout out to Ray for serving on this redistricting commission. And not only is Ray one of the 3 people serving, but he's the one generating the maps, generating the data, had the data before anybody else had it, and you know, well, he's a rocket scientist, so. So, thank you guys.
Thank you so much, David. It's people like David that take the time to run for office, take it away from their personal life, their family life, and their own interests to make a difference for all of us. And that is truly admirable. And that is what keeps freedom and democracy alive. So thank you for that, David. Without further ado, thank you, Ben. I'd like to introduce candidate for our governor and lieutenant governor, Delegate Dan Cox and Gordana Schiffanelli, and they're going to tell you all about their vision for Maryland. Thank you so much for being here.
To my left, Gordana. You all know her. She's a rock star for freedom. I'm honored to be here, State Delegate Dan Cox from Frederick, and you all here in Howard County inspire us. You are the people, and you are doing a work of freedom here that reverberates through the I-95 corridor and out to every corner of Maryland, because when we see you all succeeding, like the fact that you have a Republican serving, the fact that you have a Republican on the school board, is that true? I mean,
she's kind of a closet Republican.
Now, we need to find out, okay, so Frederick is more red than you, but somehow we have 0 on the school board. So we need to learn from you, and I think you all are doing a great job. It's an honor to be here. Ray, it's good to see you. Senator, Delegate Kittleman, pleasure. I love serving with you in the legislature. Senator Bates, good to see you. And everyone else, Councilman, good to hear from you. I am running for governor because the time is now that we stand up for our basic freedoms, because freedom is at stake, and that's why I'm running to put freedom on the ballot for you. Let me tell you a little bit. I'm from a middle-class background with a large family, grew up on a farm, had a dream, went to college, did some sports, Mount St. Mary's College, went on to law school, was very blessed to build 2 houses here in Maryland with my father. And through that process, I learned a lot about politics. And it kind of motivated me to continue to get involved and to be involved. Even though my undergrad is political science, I decided to kind of put that to use in some respects. I'm probably the only person running that happens to have been elected to public office on both sides of the bay. I'm a lifelong Frederick County resident, except for, forgive me, first few years of my life I was born down and we lived down in Tacoma Park. And then for about 4.5 years, I lived with my, down the Eastern Shore where my wife is from, and was privileged to serve in elected office down there as the president of the town council, where we managed it was quasi-executive office where we managed a small $1.1 million budget. I had the opportunity to interact with MDE to solve critical problems with our water supply, our environmental issues. So I had a lot of experience interacting with bureaucracy and the problems that that places on everyday average Americans. It inspired me to then run for delegate, become your delegate in Frederick and Carroll counties. And I do look at myself as representing you all just as much, because we as Republicans need to stay together and have our Republican values represented in Annapolis. And that's why I'm running for governor. The question comes, do you want to have a Democratic platform representing you? Or do you want a real Republican platform? I want a real Republican platform. And it's doable here in Maryland. Now, one of the things that stands out to me is that the Biden-Kamala Harris administration is a disaster for our country and a disaster for our state. It has been the worst debacle in military history for the United States when Afghanistan happened under his watch. Totally destructive of our economy. They're right now trying to pass a bill to take away our voter freedoms. H.R. 1 died, now they got a new one coming back. And I'm told they're going to force a vote tomorrow. So if you have a chance, get on the emails, get on the phone about that bill. And if you need the number, I can look it up for you. We're at a critical point in history. And that impacts the state of Maryland. It impacts it tremendously. Because who, in the history of the last year and a half, where we came through a very difficult and dark period of our Maryland history, the worst economic period in Maryland history. $2 billion taken out of the small business industry and transferred into the international business community. And who was on the watch? Was not, I humbly submit, a genuine Republican. Someone who devastated our economy and had someone standing by his side doing so. So I believe that when you're in a primary, the beautiful thing about politics is that we have an opportunity, and I'm going to invite you up in just a minute too, so you don't feel like you don't have to stand the whole time, but I'm so proud of you on the ticket. But the beautiful thing is we have a primary. I believe it's elections article 5301, don't quote me on the number, but the elections article mandates a primary, and why is that? Because we don't anoint our next leaders. We don't have our esteemed officials that happen to have millions and millions of dollars then designate the next person to represent us. That's abhorrent to our system of governance. It's abhorrent to democracy. So what do we have? We have the awesome opportunity to have everyday folks who believe in our vision, who organize like you are right now, to connect and to run for office. And so that the issues are on the ballot. And like I said, I truly am running to have freedom on the ballot. And it matters. So what I want to do real quickly is contrast my opponent, because as Republicans you have a right to hear the differences between myself and my opponent. Now I have nothing against my friend Kelly Schultz. Nothing. In fact, she's a smart woman. She's very nice. I voted for her twice. She personally, I have nothing against her. In fact, I think she is a fantastic person. Personally, from what I know of her, she's only been kind and gracious. In fact, I even told her this, and said this publicly before. She's probably been the best cabinet member Governor Hogan has had in terms of responsiveness to inquiries from the public, at least in my experience as a legislator. But that doesn't qualify you for office in the highest decision-making period of our time, in the time when issues matter more than ever before. Let me explain. My opponent stood side by side with our governor and ordered the lockdown and the shutdown of the state. My opponent not only stood side by side supporting that, but she chose as Commerce Secretary the non-essentials in this state. Now I pledge to you that I will never call you non-essential. No one in this state is non-essential. That's the law of the land, and that disqualifies her from office. Secondly, one of the most important things I think we have dealt with in the last year and a half is election integrity. The beautiful thing is I have a record to run on, and so does Kelly. And so you can look at it. You don't have to take my word for it. You can look up our records. Not one time did she put in a bill to protect our election integrity. In fact, she put in a bill to expand to voter mail-in ballots, solely mail-in ballots for municipal elections. That's her bill. I'm the legislator who put in a bill to bring accountability and an audit to our system. Do you know right now in the state of Maryland there's no audit? With all, I really appreciate Donna being here and all your service. Right now, the state law says that if you want to audit something, the ballots, it happens after the certification of the election. And secondly, it only happens with the sampling. So if you have 10 machines, they don't have to check every ballot in all 10 machines. They just sample a few. Okay, so I actually worked across the aisle effectively with a chairwoman, and we put forth legislation. I put forth a bill, and then she had her own bill to change that and say you have to do the audit before the certification. And what I would like to see, you have to do 100% audit. You have to do a verification, a forensic verification.
If you can get
Now,
that
sadly,
passed, I'd love it.
Now, let me tell you, sadly, a piece of it, because it was something we worked on with the Democrats, a piece of it passed, moving that timeline. However, the true forensic audit in my bill has not passed yet, and I'm going to continue to fight for that in Annapolis this year. And as your governor, I pledge to make it happen, because there's been no one showing up in the legislature from the executive branch saying, we've got to protect our election integrity. CRT, schools. Where has my opponent been on this issue, and where do I stand? Well, sadly, she won't agree that there's a problem with the equity lens system that's in place in Maryland. Now, I'm for equality. I think Republicans are for equality. We believe that every person, man, woman, child, every person is equal in God's eyes and must be respected as such at every point of the law. As we know, this equity lens is coming in like a flood, just sweeping away all the equality that we fought for all these years in America. And we're coming up with this new Marxist indoctrination that's happening to teach children as young as 6 years old horrific things. Things that are not able to be repeated in terms of trying to disintegrate the honor of the human body and the honor of relationships, like marriage between a man and a woman and such, is being viewed as misogynist and not able to be considered in the equity lens. As well as that just because they're born a certain way, that this poor kid can never change his life, that they're forever doomed to be inherently racist. That's not America. And sadly, my opponent will not speak about that. Now, I challenge her to, and I hope she does, but I've actually not only spoken about it, I fought for this. 2 years ago, I put a letter in to change the COMAR, because they were trying to fight to change the COMAR to include all of this nonsense. I was on WBAL, I believe it was, or it was in the morning, I forget the gentleman's name. Anyway, and we brought this to light. We did everything we could in our level best to stop it. Sadly, they put it in anyway. So now it's up to you and your local school boards to prevent it, to roll it back. And it can happen. And I pledge to be there for you to make this happen, to protect our children. I'm going to do it as your governor. I'm going to stand up for your parental rights. Your option and opportunity to make choice, to make the parents follow that money with the child to where they want, will totally revolutionize the education system such that the public schools will be forced to make their changes. And that's an opportunity that we can't ignore. It's a broad policy. Many communities, not just Republicans, many communities demand the respect as parents that they deserve. And as a parent and dad of 9 kids, you better believe I'm there on that. Now, what are some other issues I'll end with? Taxation. I heard that last night Kelly Schultz gave a fiery speech about the importance of reducing our property taxes. And I welcome her to the discussion because I've been talking about it for 3 months on the trail. In fact, I was a little surprised that she actually talked about my issue. I thought, well, this is great because it's a Republican issue. This is what we believe in. Well, I've been talking about property taxes, and you know what? I have a record, and so does Kelly. Not one time in the legislature did she put in a tax reduction bill. But I put in dozens. In fact, I was so honored and privileged to be with a very few people in the legislature. I happen to be the only Republican that kind of snuck through. I think they didn't know Dan Cox's name was on it. But I joined up with one of my black Democrat friends who's moderate. We got the bill in that passed the only property tax relief this last session. And that passed. And that's who I am. I had put in tax relief bill after tax relief bill, and I believe, as your governor, I pledge you this. I believe we can reduce property tax assessments. Why is it that our property tax assessments keep going up? Have you seen your bill? I saw mine. I was like taken aback. I was like, my goodness. Well, guess who controls the Department of Taxation and Assessments? The governor. Well, I intend to make sure that the calculations for the tax assessments, which are very complex, include the calculations for inflation, so that this nonsense of inflated taxation values are balanced by the inflation we're experiencing in our everyday pocketbook. That has got to happen, and that will reduce our taxes. And I'm going to use every other means. I've had the opportunity to talk to Steve Moore, President Trump's economic advisor, who has offered to come alongside and provide additional economic policy options that we can put forth the legislature to push through the executive. You know, the governor has one of the biggest budgets in America, $55 billion a year, and he's the most powerful in our executive in the states, because he controls over 20% of that, approximately. Just think, $11 billion is at Governor Hogan's discretion right now. And one of the things that Kelly Schultz helped run on was that she didn't like the O'Malley taxes, right? And none of us did. We're Republicans. We despise the rain tax, right? We all ran against that. And we were pledged that that money would be returned to us. But what has happened on their watch? What has happened? I voted against every budget. You know why? Because sadly, your Commerce Secretary and your governor spent every dime. They loved what O'Malley gave them. They spent every dime of it. $55 billion. And I'm saying that not to be perpetually negative. I'm saying it to give you a contrast of who I am. I voted against the budget. You know what they did to me? I was yanked out of my committee, threatened that I wouldn't have my $7 million projects in Frederick go through, because if you don't vote for the budget, you don't get the money for your projects, I was told. Well, I had the privilege of meeting to strike a deal for some of my projects, including almost $1 million for Mount Airy, not too far from here, for the infrastructure in Mount Airy. I had struck the deal on an opioid relief center. And the deal was this. I was the swing vote in the Judiciary Committee for a $10 million police project for Johns Hopkins. Why? Because the nurses are being assaulted in Johns Hopkins, at Johns Hopkins. They didn't have the Democrat votes. So I sat down, and my son happened to be there with me, because I take my kids along sometimes, you know, to get the wonderful experience of being in that grand place of the House. It has been an honor and privilege to be there for you. But I take my kids along. So I had my 14-year-old or 13-year-old son sitting there with me, and we were meeting with the Speaker's top chief of staff. And I struck the deal. I said, look, she said, I need your vote. I need you to put that button in for the $10 million for Baltimore City, to get those officers in there. I said, well, you know what? I actually am very positive to police. I support and I back the blue, and we need to do that. But I have a problem. I don't see the people of Frederick getting their projects done. And here's another $10 million going to Baltimore City, and yet you're not promising my constituents any of their projects. She said, what do you need? So I laid it out. She said, done. Deal was signed. I pushed the button. We got $10 million and 1,000 new police in Baltimore City in the private Hopkins police force. Then I voted against the budget because it was bloated. It was spending the rain tax. It was spending all this money that we were supposed to be helping to refund and rebuild our private economy. And I was told, you're not going to get your projects now. And I said, no, hold on. I don't think that's the way it works in Annapolis. Because if you're not a person of your word in Annapolis, you're not going to go very far, and I'm going to make hay about this. And I talked to the Speaker's staff, and I said, look, It's not just me either. You said this in front of my son. Does your word matter? My son's going to know this the rest of his life if you yank my stuff. And you know what? To her credit, she held out her hand and she said, you'll get your money. So I happen to be one of the first delegates to vote against the budget and get my projects. I say that because I'm telling you, this is a hostile environment. The Democrats are in absolute power. It is hard to work in across the aisle. I'll tell you, in the Judiciary Committee, we fought the defund the police bill. For about a week, we had to filibuster. There were times I was filibustering these bills till 1, 2, and 3 in the morning, at least 2. And we killed a lot of them. But at the end of the day, they did get some of the crud through, but we got a lot of the FOP amendments on, and we did our level best to protect our police, because otherwise we're going to lose our freedoms. And I pledge to you, as your governor, I'm going to do the same. And so I ask you this, in closing. You have a record to run on. I've heard some people talking about me, saying that, well, he's a great guy, but he's not as effective as Kelly. I beg to differ. I ask you to look at my record. I ask you to look at her record. Do you want to go in the direction of a Hogan 3-0? Now, I'll say this straight up. I was a huge Governor Hogan fan. I worked twice for him to get him elected. We pulled Frederick County for him, big time. But as a member of 42 delegates, the gentleman refused to meet with his Republican caucus, and when we asked why, for 3 years, why, dang it, you won't meet with us. You know what his chief of staff told us? Because the governor has a different constituency than yours. He's running for something else. That's wrong. And the person who stood by his side and said, wear the damn mask, the person who stood by his side when he ordered the healthcare workers, who stood up for our people for a year through the COVID epidemic, that person was Kelly Schultz. She supports those policies. She's promised to continue them. I promise to change them and give you your freedom back. I'm asking for your vote. Now for the real Republican champion, I want to give you a few minutes with Gordana Schiffanelli. It is a real honor that Mark and Gordana have been willing to step up and to run this race with us. And I thank you so much and give you the mic.
Thank you, Dan. Hi, everyone. So raise your hands who know me already. How many people know? Oh, wow. So, do I really need to introduce myself?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. All right. Well, I'll tell you again. I will be, if you vote for Dan and I, your first, not just a female, forget about the gender, but legal immigrant who came to this country and lived the American dream the way your ancestors did. I've been here for 22 years. So what did I do in those 22 years? I built 2 businesses. I am licensed financial advisor in the state of Maryland. I'm also a licensed insurance agent in the state of Maryland. I also have a law license in the state of Maryland. I was studying a lot when I came over from war-torn Yugoslavia. That is the country that doesn't exist any longer. So I built 2 great businesses, my law practice and my financial planning practice, and I still do that, if you could believe it. I have the time to do it. I still take care of my clients' retirement funds. Those the clients that I met 22 years ago through cold calling, cold walking, knocking on doors and asking them, hey, would you be brave enough to allow me to manage your retirement? So I'm a financial planner and I'm an economist. I obtained my highest degree in economics in University of Belgrade overseas in Europe. Then I came here and became a lawyer, and I went to Baltimore, University of Baltimore School of Law, and I'm barred attorney in the state of New Jersey actually, and in the state of Maryland. But that is nothing. That is nothing. What I've done for 9,000 students last year when COVID hit and they were locked down. They couldn't go to school, and just so happened that we had Black Lives Matter political hack running as a superintendent in our school board. And that political hack was calling students to join her to march, peacefully protest. Remember those peaceful protests, burning streets and Bill's businesses and church in DC? Well, those are the same peaceful protesters, and she was calling children to join her. Instead of going to school, the schools were locked, to join her to go and peacefully protest against the police. To me, that was it. I had to stand up and I had to fight for 9,000 children in my county, and I come from Pinus County. So my husband and I joined forces, and within 3 months, as a write-in candidates, from June until October 26th, the first in-person voting day in Maryland, 2020, we were able to run a campaign and win and take down the Board of Education as a write-in candidate. We did that. We did that on a write-in. And I always say the numbers speak louder than my words. Usually you need like 500 votes to sort of cross the message out and say, okay, there's 500 people, they wrote your name in. We had 12,000 people writing Mark and Helena. So in a year when in Maryland it seemed no one won anything, we were able to take down ineffective school board and our superintendent, that Black Lives Matter activist, actually completed her term and left to continue to teach. I believe she is at the University of Pennsylvania teaching future superintendents how to implement critical race theory into your children's schools. So why I'm running is because this can be done. It's going to be a very hard fight. I'm not going to lie to you. But I've done this for my county. And my county kids are in school. They were in school the entire summer, catching up all the lost education they lost in 2020 during COVID when they were shut down. This summer, they were in school June, July, and August, no mask, and they were doing the sports, and they were learning, and everyone's happy. They were getting hot meal in cafeteria. There was no problem. We had no problems. There were no deaths. There were no COVID. There was nothing was wrong. And then all of a sudden, the state superintendent said, Mohammed Chandri, that everybody needs to be masked. And that everybody needs to, and all the school teachers and school personnel needs to encourage others to get vaccinated. And my Board of Education in my county voted 4-1 that our Board of Education is not going to allow encouraging, promoting, pushing, bullying, or whatever to anyone, including teachers, parents, or children, to get mandatory vaccination, because that's not freedom. But what's the cost? There's no free lunch. The cost is me being dragged through the mud. And that dragging will continue. The threats against me and my family will continue. But I'm going to tell you something as your future Lieutenant Governor. I am so tough and so fearless because I survived 28 years in communism. NATO bombs couldn't kill me. Black Lives Matter organization is not going to get anywhere near me, I can tell you that. But I want you to know that the lives of your children are at stake. And I call them, and I'm not a politician, and I can't be dragged further. Rhino Republicans need to leave. They need to leave. I'm not Trump, but I can tell you something. That man was right once and for all. We have to have restoration of our Declaration of Rights, of our Constitution, of our Bill of Rights, and there is no wishy-washy middle way. There is only the right way and there is a wrong way. And if you have to negotiate between your child's life and to appease some Democrat Party completely left, ultra-left wing ideology, I cannot believe that anyone would vote against your own future generation, your child. Because your children are going to be suffering for ideologies and votes that those that are in Maryland legislature and those that are in Maryland executive branch are making contrary to the best interest of our children. And that means they gotta go free, they gotta breathe, they can't be wearing masks 24/7, they can't be stuck in a house, they can't be doing Zoom all the time, they need to go back and live like free human beings. We are free. least, the tax, I'm an economist. And I just don't happen to know that our small businesses 2022 are going to suffer. They're not just going to suffer because of our tax bill and tax burden, but they're also going to suffer when they go to renew their health insurance premiums. Their health insurance premiums are going to go up the roof. And you know why? Because our executive branch had negotiated new health insurance premiums and deductibles. That you don't know, but I do, because I just had the continuing education class that I have to go through. And that insurance premium is going to include payment for gender sex change. And you're going to be paying for it. Oh, by the way, I don't know if anybody told you that. But you, remember before we had those situations that we have to pay for Planned Parenthood, and then some people are against and some people are for it? Forget about that part. You're going to be paying for gender change, and that cost is going to be included in 2022 Maryland Health Exchange insurance application for any business over 50 employees. That is going to be subsidizing bizarre policies that should belong to a person, and the cost should belong to a person who's going through the process of sex change. This time, entire state of Maryland, it will be subsidizing sex change through your health insurance. So, oh, by the way, those are the things that the governor and the benefits.
The benefits got slashed big time.
That's right. So those are the things that usually there's not enough time for the gubernatorial candidates to go into nitty-gritty details. But as an economist, I promise with my expertise and knowledge, I will help Dan and I will help Marylanders get back to common sense. Get your health insurance off the marketplace. Negotiate your rates. Try to find the plan that suits your needs. And with that, I've never worked for any boss, but this time, and this is the only time, I'm going to work for you. Thanks for having me.
I see why we picked her.
Yeah.
She's great. She's great. And yes, actually, not just Stephen Moore. Gordana Schiffanelli is an economic expert, so I'm thrilled that she is joining the ticket, and we're going to fight for you. It's been an honor. I don't know if there's a few minutes for questions, but I'm happy to answer questions. Don't be shy.
2 minutes for this.
2 minutes for questions. Anybody? Yes, sir.
I'll ask you this. What are you going to do to support the civil patriotic liberties of Americans with autism? What is your plan for putting Americans with autism first? Tell me the answer.
Life, liberty, and property always protected. The day I take office as your governor, I'm going to reverse all of these anti-life mandates. I'm going to protect life and provide opportunities for those who have disabilities or opportunities that they need to make sure they're protected. And never once will we allow the government to crush you as a person. Okay? And I'll give you a quick example. My running mate mentioned abortion. Do you know that we're the only state in the 5-state region that uses our tax dollars to pay for abortions? This is an anti-life thing. And as governor, you have absolute power over striking that from the budget. Ronald Reagan used to dream about the line item veto because he had it in California. Well, we have it here in Maryland. We actually don't even just have it. The governor drafts the budget. And yet there's millions of dollars every year, anti-life dollars. And you know what they do? They traffic women into our state and use your tax dollars to kill babies. And that's going to end on my watch. And that's my heart for you, sir. Protect life and provide opportunities.
Because I am a proud autistic man who reads the Bible.
Thank you. So good to see you. Anybody else real quick?
One more question?
Kathy.
Recently, I detected that the General Assembly passed a bill for 12-year-olds in school to make certain decisions that are very troublesome to parents.
Yes.
About medical decisions with people at schools, not, and their parents don't know.
Yes, so we passed 2 bills that were horrific in the way that they work together. I support telemedicine. I think it's wonderful. but they expanded it to inside the public schools, and they included a bill that I stood up and gave a speech against to allow students to receive medicine, including sex change counseling, behind their parents' backs, and never with any notice to the parents. And this has, by the way, been demonstrated to expose children to potential trafficking. There was a separate bill that we also fought to allow students to be taken by school counselors, young girls, off campus without their parents' knowledge as well. I fought both of those. They're horrific bills. They're attacks on parental rights. And just as I mentioned before, we have got to get back to parental rights and honesty regarding respect for the human, respect for the rights of parents, respect for the Constitution. And I intend to do that and restore the Constitution on day one. If we don't have the Constitution, and that means a practical application of it, we have nothing. And those who are leading us in a bunch of lies and in oppression. So I intend to change that. It's an honor to run. Thank you so much. Let's go win this. If we can win this. We will.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you all very much. And there's a few elected officials, yes, that I need to recognize. Delegate Trent Kittleman, right here. Senator Bates over here. And of course, we already had Donna. We have Jen Nussbaum from the GOP Club, president. You know Ray already. Let me see, I'm going around the room. Loretta, you already know from the MFRW. Let's see, I'm missing you? Oh, Sean, our wonderful candidate, yes, thank you. Did I miss anybody? And Gordana. And thank you. I have to give Beth credit because she asked Dan to come tonight, and Gordana. And I first became aware of Dan because a lady firearm instructor came to me last session and she said, I need you to testify because I'm the big mouth that likes to testify. And she said, they're human trafficking women, young women, they're taking them out of the parking lot of Wegmans in Columbia. And you need to testify. And I said, I absolutely will testify. And when I found out about the bill, and it had to do with firearms and Second Amendment rights, it was proposed by Dan. And I thought, okay, what kind of legislator is this? And so I watched some of the previous videos. And I was like, hey, I like this guy. He has fire. He has fire and he has guts and he's just saying it like it is. And so I really appreciate that. I didn't mind testifying. I'll be happy to testify again. Absolutely. So we have a few more things. We want to make sure that the people that want to be registered for the voter registration get their paperwork in order. So Donna's going to come up. And I'm sorry, I have Christina's card. Yeah, I need you to sign that, please, and then give it back.
No, don't give it back. That's hers forever.
Oh, it's
That's
hers?
yours. This is my gift to you.
Oh, okay.
And that way, if anybody ever challenges you, have proof that you've been trained. Just come up and okay. There are some people who signed in on the mass sheet but did not fill out one of these. So if you have not filled out one of these, please give it to me because I have to have the match. Otherwise, you get scratched off the list if you're not registered. The other thing is, several people I don't know, so you have cards up here. These are for you to keep. You keep them in your wallet, you keep them on you. And if you're doing a voter registration, and if anybody challenges you, and those that have been doing this for a while will tell you, you get challenged a lot. You have proof that you have been registered, and these are good for 2 years. So make sure you get this. These are the people that have signed both lists. And if you haven't gotten yours, it's probably because I only have one of the two forms on you. So please make sure you fill it out and I'll make sure you get this. But don't leave without this card, because this is the final thing. And don't leave without making sure that you are on here. I know Virginia Lee, I have you on one list and not two. I'm not on both. And then I have a bunch of these that are left over. So anybody who wants to end this meeting, come see me.
Do you want to say anything to close?
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. You all are here because you're patriots, You care about our republic, you care about our community, and you care about our state and our nation. So I want to thank you on all levels of your service, your commitment, and please.
We can do this. We can do this. If she did it in Queen Anne County, there's
Anybody can
no damn reason
Right.
why we can't too. Let's make it happen.
Take back Maryland.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank y'all.
Way to go,
Cheers.
guys.